for that work.
So you already had a hub and an ability to deliver on other projects, and
proven
use
track
that
record.
proven track record of, and including the workforce from different market and different operation. But actually, that brings us maybe to the topic of DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, I guess with what you've told us so far, thanks to your original social background, your position as a woman, your knowledge of multicultural that you acquire through your role in operation, traveling in various countries, your understanding of the US culture as well, through your role, that put you in a good position to talk, well, probably implement DEI policy when they were put forward at Microsoft, and then maybe use them or understand them better than anyone else. Can you talk to us about this? And I'll rebound on a separate question.
Yeah, I mean, if I take a step back into when I started in Microsoft back in the early 80s, early 90s, I mean, manufacturing was male dominated. Like, there was very few females in manufacturing or supply chain. So I was regularly in meetings with 30, 40 people, and I would be the only woman in the room. So I remember some US colleagues coming over to a meeting with some of our suppliers, and one of them leaned over and asked me, was I okay? And I thought there was something wrong. I know I'd said something wrong or looked funny. And I said, yes, why? And he said, you're the only woman in the room. And I was going, well, that back then was just normal practice.
And that has been like this for
years.
Most of your early career, I'm sure.
Yeah, very much so. And then if I move into the 90s when I was in operations and I took on the European Operations Centre role, I was asked to be the exec sponsor for DE&I in Ireland. And I hesitated, which surprised me. And I reflected back on...
Why did you hesitate, you think?
Because I felt like I didn't want to be the token woman.
Yeah.
You know, that they were asking me to do it because here was somebody heading up operations and supply chain, and they were a female and one of the few females in the market in that position. And I felt that was like me being the poster child for DE&I.
I know, it's interesting because it's true that like that's kind of like almost driving you back towards a condition or like So the DE&I, let's
give it to the woman.
Give it to the woman.
Yeah.
And it's actually sometimes you see the same phenomenon nowadays, like give it to someone who belongs to a minority group.
So I decided after a lot of reflection that I would do it. And the reason I decided to do it was because I realized I had no role models when I was coming through the organization in senior leadership roles. And I didn't hear a perspective or point of view from female in leadership. And therefore, while I might have been uncomfortable, there was so much more I could do for other women in the industry by speaking up, by being visible, by having a point of view. So I decided to be the exec sponsor for DE&I. But I learned a huge amount because during that period when I was involved in that, we had the marriage equality voting, and there was a lot of debate with our LGBT community on what they wanted Microsoft to come out on and be very vocal on, and I had to try and educate them on why we couldn't do that. So why we wanted to, and in other markets they were coming out and being very vocal, but my position was I think we need to go out and tell people to vote, but I don't think I can go out and tell people what to vote. So I want for you need to vote, but I'm not going to tell you can vote yes or no. And I sat down with our LGBT community, and they said, but we feel like we're the poster childs. And it kind of hit me that, I felt that when I was asked to do a similar thing. They said, we go for the Pride Parade every year and there's only 10 of us or 20 of us and there's never anybody else from leadership who joins. It's just like we're rolled out when you need LGBT community to be rolled out. And I went, well, what would you like us to do? And they said, we'd like you to come to the Pride Parade. And I was going, I never even knew I would be invited or I could. So I went with a number of leaders that first year, and the next year we had 100 people, and the next year we had 200 people, and it was just again an education for me on if you take that first step and you're have the courage to do that, others will follow. So it's always been a really big passion of mine, as you say, from a socio-economic background, or whether it's being a female, or whether it's looking at minority groups and saying we all should have the opportunity to have an equal voice. And Microsoft changed its strategy along the path on DE&I to stop talking about all the differences we had, different cultures, and we used to celebrate China Day, India Day, all the differences.
Yeah, because Microsoft seems to have been like a bit out of, let's say, the controversies that have surrounded the DEI in the latest year, you know, with some company being very visible on promoting this agenda, and then very visible in dropping it off. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's probably because Microsoft, as I say, was moving away from the really putting a laser focus on diversity and difference to putting a focus on inclusivity. What does it take us to build a culture where everybody can show up every day and be their true selves, and celebrate that? So our culture and our leadership development and training and education was all around being more inclusive and understanding your unconscious biases that you might have against certain norms, and educating all of our teams on that. And actually Ireland were one of the first countries to pilot unconscious bias training to try and really get our leaders and our employees educated on those things that you might not even know that you have a bias towards.